Vajjanaranjana Yashodhanandana Vajjanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Iskon Guruvrinda ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Shri Shiko Nitai Mahaprasad ki Jai. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Last instruction, Srila Prabhupada had heard of the program of his disciple Lokanath Swami, who was taking a small group of men on a bullock cart and preaching in villages throughout India. Lokanath had told Srila Prabhupada how in the course of their travels they had recently visited tirthas such as Badarik Ashram and Bhim Kapur. Srila Prabhupada was enlivened to hear this, and he then evolved a transcendental desire to go himself on a cart pulled by bullocks to circumambulate the area of Vrindavan. Tamal, Krishna and Bhavananda, who were serving Prabhupada with increased intimacy, felt themselves unable to support Srila Prabhupada in his desire since they thought his fragile body could not survive such rough treatment on the roads. So, I don't know if you've ever been to Vrindavan, but when I went there the first time, there was more potholes than road. The road was like a string vest with loads of holes. And although it was only 90 miles from Delhi to Vrindavan, it took about 4 or 5 hours to go there. Actually, there was one guest the other day I was mentioning about driving in India and about the rules. He said there are no rules. They are, but nobody really seems to be aware of them, and somehow or another seems to manage. Actually, it was a slight digression, but there was one time one atheist had visited India, and after being there for some time, he concluded that there must be God, because there's so many people there, and it just looks so chaotic, but it all works. He said the only way that could happen is if there was some higher power involved. But Srila Prabhupada reasoned that dying on parikrama is when you're traveling around, circumambulating or walking around the whole place. Dying on parikrama is glorious, and he asked them to take him. A controversy developed among the devotees, as some said Prabhupada's will to go on parikrama should be immediately honoured as an order from the spiritual master. He wanted it, and he should not be denied. The doctor, however, assured them that Srila Prabhupada's body would not survive the jostling of the cart. The many devotees who crowded around Srila Prabhupada's bed held different opinions, and Prabhupada could see this. Following his request, however, Lokanath went out and hired a cart with bullocks and prepared it for the ride. Lokanath and Hamsadutta suggested that the parikrama could go to the city of Vrindavan or visit the 7 main temples of the Goswamis, but then they said that since the next day was Govardhan Puja, Prabhupada could go to Govardhan Hill. All Krishna, Bhavananda and Bhakti Charu, however, protested adamantly against the parikrama. One day experiment, Prabhupada said, it is for one day. Rest assured, I will not die in one day. The Prabhupada didn't mind. He was in Vrindavan anyway. He liked the idea of going to Govardhan, and we shall make our cooking there, he said. Lokanath Swami, he assured them, was experienced. Make a very good picnic, he said. Bear in mind, Prabhupada wasn't even eating at this point. After discussing back and forth, the devotees finally decided that early the next morning they would take Prabhupada in a bullock cart to Govardhan. The majority of the devotees then left Srila Prabhupada alone for the night. Later that night, Srila Prabhupada received a visit from Niskinchana Krishna Das Babaji, who sat with Prabhupada chanting and sometimes speaking in Bengali. Suddenly, Tamal Krishna and Bhavananda came to Prabhupada's bedside. They were in tears and beside themselves with anxiety. Prabhupada understood. You request me not to go? He asked. Well, Srila Prabhupada said, Tamal Krishna, I'll tell you, I'm getting so upset sitting in the room upstairs. I was walking around. Two of the devotees told me that this road is so bad that if you go on this road, you're going to be jolted back and forth. The road is terrible. I just can't understand, Srila Prabhupada, why it has to be tomorrow that we have to go. If anybody wants you to travel, I do, but why do we have to go when you're in this condition? I can't understand it. Why are we throwing everything out the window that we must go tomorrow? I can't understand. All right, said Prabhupada softly, immediately agreeing to the proposal that he not go. Jai, Srila Prabhupada said back to Chiru, who was also present. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, said Bhavananda with great relief. All right, you're satisfied? Now I am, Srila Prabhupada, said Bhavananda. Yes, I was in too much anxiety. Never mind, I shall not put you in anxiety. Thanks, Srila Prabhupada, said Tamakrishna. We are so much attached to you that you practically drive us to madness sometimes. Tonight we were becoming mad. No, I shall not do that, said Prabhupada. Babaji Maharaj, Prabhupada turned to Niskinchana Krishna Das Babaji and said, just see how much affection they have for me. Srila Prabhupada said, Tamakrishna, the way you deal with us simply deepens our attachment every moment. It is my duty, said Prabhupada, and the devotees laughed warmly, understanding. Yes, they could understand that was his duty by all his actions and dealings. Prabhupada's intention was to capture spirit souls and deliver them to Krishna. His method was loving service, but he did not do it for himself. He was delivering to Krishna. That was his duty. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2, entitled Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons, Text 9, is it? Tasmin Kute Ahite Nashte Tasmin Kute Hite Nashte Kritamule Vanaspato Kritamule Vanaspato Vitapa Iva Shushyanti Vitapa Iva Shushyanti Vishnu Prana Devokasha Vishnu Prana Devokasha Tasmin Kute Hite Nashte Kritamuli Vanaspato Vitapa Iva Shushyanti Vishnu Prana Devokasha Tasmin Kute Hite Nashte Kritamuli Vanaspato Vitapa Iva Shushyanti Vishnu Prana Devokasha Tasmin Kute Hite Nashte Kritamuli Vanaspato Vitapa Iva Shushyanti Vishnu Prana Devokasha. Please chant.
Tasmin Kute Hite Naste Tasmin Bhute Namaste. Vitamule Vanaspata. Vitapari Vashishanti. Vishnu Prana Devokasha. Tasmin Bhute Namaste. Tasmin Bhute Namaste. Vitamule Vanaspata. Vitamule Vanaspata. Vitapari Vashishanti. Vitapari Vashishanti. Vishnu Prana Devokasha. Vishnu Prana Devokasha.
Ladies, Tasman, when he Kute, the most deceitful Ahite, enemy, Nashte, is finished. Kritamule, having its roots cut off. Vanaspato, a tree. Vitapa, the branches and leaves. Eva, like Shushanti, dry up. Vishnu Prana, whose life is Lord Vishnu. Diva Okasha, the demigods. Translation: when the root of a tree is cut and the tree falls down, its branches and twigs automatically dry up. Similarly, when I have killed this diplomatic Vishnu, the demigods for whom Lord Vishnu is the life and soul will lose the source of their life and wither away. Please repeat. When the root of a tree is cut and the tree falls down, its branches and twigs automatically dry up. Similarly, when I have killed this diplomatic Vishnu, the demigods for whom Lord Vishnu is the life and soul will lose the source of their life and wither away. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The difference between the demigods and the demons is here explained. The demigods always follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas the demons simply plan to disturb or kill him. Nevertheless, sometimes the demons very much appreciate the full dependence of the demigods upon the mercy of the Lord. This is indirect glorification of demigods by the demons. Om Agyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Pakam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagate Grimnyat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Grimjinataranam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. When the root of a tree is cut and the tree falls down, its branches and twigs automatically dry up. Similarly, when I've killed this diplomatic Vishnu, the demigods for whom Lord Vishnu is the life and soul will lose the source of their life and wither away. So the demoniac king, Hiranyakashipu, is using some logic here, but Krishna is beyond logic. And sometimes people, if they want to hurt somebody really bad, they don't hurt them directly, they hurt somebody that they love. Sometimes you see people, if, for example, maybe you get these gangs and somebody owes them some money. And sometimes people don't care so much for their own life, but they'll kidnap one of their loved ones and promise to hurt them if they don't pay up. So here, because Vishnu is very dear to the demigods, and he is the source of their life, they're very attached to Lord Vishnu. Then the demonic mentality of Hiranyakashipu is thinking, if I can finish off Vishnu, then my enemies, the demigods, will be weakened, and then I can conquer over them. Of course, he doesn't understand who is Vishnu. And of course, he's playing a part. We all know that because Hiranyakashipu. I'm not sure which one he is, Jai or Vijay. Does anybody know? I don't know if we'd recognize him. We've seen him walking down the street anyway. But so these two brothers, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they are the two gatekeepers of Vaikuntha, or at least two of them. There may be more than two, but we know they are two gatekeepers. And they're here to satisfy the Lord's desire. It's interesting, we see here that the difference between the demigods and the demons is here explained. The demigods always follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now you think, well, why, if they're always following the instructions of the Lord, then does that not mean they're pure devotees? Anybody got any thoughts on that? Yeah, and then so in the realm of the demigods, then there's great heavenly enjoyment. They live a long time and experience sense enjoyment beyond our comprehension. And because they have that pious, was it someone said recently that good works brings you closer to Krishna, but chanting Krishna's names means that you're associating with Krishna. So many of the demigods, they have attained that position because of amassing the results of many pious activities, and then they got promotion to the heavenly planets. It's just like sometimes people have a lot of money, they put into a certain account and they might get a higher rate of interest. So they put a lot of money in the bank, they invested a lot of time doing pious activities. And sometimes because they know that they can get a good reaction, so their intention is to go to Swarga, or the heavenly planets. In Jagannath Puri, there's one. Anyone been to Jagannath Puri? There's one place called Swargadwar. Does anybody know that place? And what is it? Yeah, but what is it? It's a crematorium, isn't it? So typically when Hindus die, then if they're pious Hindus, they're thinking Swargadwar means the gateway to the heavens, that their body may be burnt there. But because of their pious life, then they're expecting their destiny to be Swargaloka, or the planet of the demigods, one of the planets. So often people who have some knowledge of the Vedic literature, they don't put so much importance of enjoying in this lifetime, because they understand this lifetime is very short. How much can you enjoy? And even in this lifetime, the peak of your lifetime is only a certain amount of years, right? When you're younger, you're wishing you were older. I wish I was in secondary school. I wish I was old enough to smoke. I wish I was old enough to drink. I wish I was old enough to drive a car. And then as you get older, I wish I was younger. So there's a certain period in between where you can enjoy, where you're quite comfortable. But that period of time is only a couple of decades, and then it's past. So people who are a bit more familiar with the Vedic literatures understand that this life is is temporary and is very short. So let me put my life into pious activities so that later on I can get a long lifespan and also enjoy big time. But this is still materialistic. It's just that they're like, sometimes people are gambling and they win something and they say, okay, I'll take my winnings straight away, and then they go off and then maybe they buy some small thing with it. And then someone else, they'll keep on investing their winnings, right? So this is gambling. As long as we're in this mature world, it's a gamble. It's a gamble that we don't end up in some unfortunate situation. Some years ago, I went back to my hometown, Cumbernauld, to do some books, because I thought I was feeling quite attached to my hometown. I thought I need to blow this ego here. So I went to Cumbernauld Town Centre, shaved up, tilak and dhoti, and went out on books because I thought anybody who my mind wants to be attached to, remembering me as I was then I want to kind of wipe that clean. And it was interesting because I met one friend. She was at school. We were at school together, and she bought a book. Actually, the funny thing was, it was a Chant Be Happy and a Higher Taste we had. And she was just going off to work. I says, "Oh, where are you working?" She says, "Over there in the butcher's." And I thought, "Oh, what a shame." She was a good artist, good-looking girl, and I thought, I says, "Oh, what are you doing working in a place like that?" I says, "How can you stomach it?" She said, "Oh, it was disgusting for the first couple of weeks, but you get used to it after a few weeks." And I'm just thinking, that could be me. That could be anyone. If I don't stick to Krishna consciousness, I might end up working in a butcher's. Who knows? Because she never expected she was going to be. That was the thing. That wasn't just that she was working there, but she never planned it, and she was stuck for work and ended up being there. And you think, so I was feeling quite compassionate for, not just for her, but for anyone in that situation where they find themselves in a situation which is ugra karma, horrible, unbeneficial works meant for the destruction of the world. So there's different types of karma. So karma, loosely, it means some activity which brings about some action and reaction. Then we have vikarma. What is vikarma? Anybody? Negative or forbidden. Negative. And then we have ugra karma, which is nasty stuff. Yeah, really nasty stuff like warmongers and animal slaughter, things like that. And we have nice karma. What's nice karma? Karma which is very nice. No, NAIS, nice karma means akarma. It means action without any reaction. So this is devotional service, back to yoga. That when we're acting for Krishna, then we have no material reaction. Everything else is binding to the material world. Even quote George Harrison, he was saying that even if you have good karma, you still have to come back and get the good result. So even good karma itself, like we may get to the higher planets, like the demigods, devotees of Vishnu, because they're not inimical to Vishnu. But at the same time, they have such high spirit of enjoyment and such facilities for enjoyment that they generally only remember Vishnu when trouble's there. Just like in times of war, then people go to the synagogues, the chapels and the mosques and the mandirs to pray, that their sons or fathers or husbands come home. But before that, they may not be so concerned. So when we're enjoying life, then we think in our little hunky-dory, dozy state of mind, we think everything's going to go on forever. But then something unsettles the situation. We realize this world, we're not going to go on forever. And this is the most amazing thing in the world. What's the most amazing thing? Is it Falls of Clyde? Is it somebody stopping on a girl street and buying a book off of you? Is it that the Sunday feast will be perfect? What's the most amazing thing? So this is a conversation between Yudhishthira and Yamaraj. Yamaraj was posing as, what was he posing as? Some kind of attendant to some lake, was it? But the lake was poisoned, is that right? And the Pandavas, the 5 brothers, the Arjuna, Yudhishthira, Bhishma, Nakula and Sahadev, the Pandava brothers, they were called Pandavas because they were the sons of Pandu, Maharaj Pandu. So they were in exile and they went to this lake to get some water, but each one went and took the water, and before they carried the water back to the camp, they drank a little bit and died. So Yudhishthira went, is that right? Or was it? No, they asked the question, What's the most amazing thing, right? Yeah, so you can just imagine if somebody said to you, what's the most amazing thing in this world? You'd probably think of whatever it was you were most attached to and think, oh, that's the most amazing thing, like my husband or my wife or my pet dog or my new car or my new trainers or whatever it is, The most amazing thing in the world is this new T-shirt I got or something. Or my mum or dad. Most amazing thing is because they tolerate me. But Yudhishthira, he was, he's also known as Dharma Raj, isn't he? He's like, he's so fixed in Dharma. Oh no, that's Yamaraj is known as Dharmaraj. But he's the son of Dharmaraj, although it wasn't quite known. So he answered, yeah, the most amazing thing in this world is that at every moment the souls are flocking to the house of death. But a foolish person thinks they will not die. So we see everyone before us is dying, people. It's like I look back and I think there's at least three people I can think of offhand who I was at school with who are no longer with us. And still I'm thinking that that I'm going to continue to live forever. So in one sense, it's true, we do live forever. And therefore the soul cannot really conceive of dying because we don't die. We're unborn, eternal, ever-existing and primeval. But what does die is the body, and the body is actually never alive anyway. It's just like you put your hand on a puppet and people think, oh, the puppet show's great. And we invest some belief into that story in the puppet. And then, but afterwards, when the puppeteer is there and his hand isn't in the puppet any longer, and we see the puppet lying, we don't go, oh no, the puppet's died. Somebody resuscitate that puppet, give it the kiss of life, do compressions on it. And then some puppeteer may just put his hand back and say, oh, look, it's back alive again. Oh, what a relief. So we become so attached to this body as being the self, but it's simply a covering. It's a covering of ourself. We're experiencing life through this body. And even the demigods, they know about a lot of the Vedic directions, and they take use of them for themselves. It's not that they're ignorant, but what they are ignorant of is Krishna's supremacy because they cannot see it. And particularly Krishna, who is Krishna's Tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the supreme Bhagavan. So there are different Bhagavans. Sometimes Narada Muni is known as Bhagavan. So Bhagavan means one who is full in 6 opulences. So who can be said to be full of 6 opulences? Who's the most wealthy person on the planet at the moment? Huh? Somebody? Material, who's most materially wealthy, as in how much are they worth? Is it? Okay, so say he's the most wealthy person on the planet, right? So that's maybe one person he's maybe got one quality of having so much wealth. Okay, is he the most beautiful person on the planet? Is he the most renounced person on the planet? Or is he attached? Is he the most knowledgeable person on the planet? Sometimes people think because they've got money, all of a sudden that elevates them to a platform of we should listen to this person because he's got loads of money now. And they think that as well. They believe their own press. But it's a big mistake. Actually, you're more likely to find someone who's got no money to be more knowledgeable. And often you see that. We speak to people all the time, and the common person in the street's got a better idea how to run the country than the heads of state, isn't it? Because they've got common sense. You just walk down the street and say, okay, you're running the place. I don't even know who you are, but you can't do any worse. And even if someone is the most wealthy and they have good looks to go with it, etc., and they may be most merciful and generous, etc., but how long will it last? There was one very wealthy guy called Howard Hughes. You may have heard of him, Howard Hughes. So he was in the previous few generations ago. He was the most wealthy guy. But who knows about him now? Hands up anyone who's never heard of Howard Hughes. Right? So at least half the room here has never heard of him. And then those who do, who have heard of him, they probably don't know that much about him or even what he looks like or how much he was worth. And what he was worth then, it's what value is it now? He didn't take it with him. Even the Vikings, right, we see they had this thing that when the Viking chief, the head of the clan, right, when he departed this world, they put him on a boat, put all his belongings there, set it on fire, send it out on the lake, and then they'd shoot some fiery arrow, and then it would burn. That would send them to Valhalla. Is that right? Valhalla's up, isn't it? And then he'd take all his wealth with him. But it's probably somebody came up with that idea who thought, I've got a good way to get rich. Let's just tell me, put all the wealth in the boat, set it on fire, and after it's all over, I'll go for a swim. Confirmed. But no, did they take it with them? No. Did they appear on the other side and say, oh, yeah, I've got my gold helmet with me? No. Same with these pyramids. The pharaohs of Egypt also, they wanted to be buried with all their wealth because they thought they could take it with them. But it's such a bodily concept of life. But it's not possible because everything which is on this planet since the beginning is still here. Nothing has left this planet. This is the first verse of the Ishopanishad. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamidachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vishishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. So they're perfectly equipped as complete wholes. So it's not like some little upstart Viking or Pharaoh can scarper off with some goods, some swag, and make it to some other kind of platform of living. So they're perfectly complete. And whatever is produced of a complete whole remains complete in itself. And because he's completely whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains a complete balance. So in other words, materially, if something is subtracted from something, then it's diminished, isn't it? So if Pip's got £10 and I ask him for 5, then I've got 5 and he's got 5. But in the spiritual sense, that when you give something, then it doesn't diminish. When we have Krishna consciousness, it's not that. I was out in Sanktan today and I've given out so much Krishna consciousness that I better stay back and chant for a few weeks because I'm completely depleted. No, actually it increases. This is the nature of spiritual life. The more you give spiritual life to others, the more yours increases. This is like, they say that if one helps someone get to the top of a hill, you automatically get there yourself. And you've got someone with you to have a picnic with. So Krishna consciousness movement is a giving movement. Sometimes we're receiving, but we're only receiving so that we can continue to give. And sometimes people misunderstand. They think, oh, this is a giving movement. Good, I'm a taker. I like givers. This is where I should be. I'm a taker and you're a giver. So this is a perfect arrangement. But it doesn't last like that because our giving is for us to benefit and also to show the example that this movement's about giving, and to become part of it, you have to be a giver as well. One time I was doing book distribution in Nottingham, and I met this young Rastafarian, and I sold him a book, and he gave a donation, and I thanked him for it, and he says, no, I want to thank you. And I says, what for? He says, for enabling me to give. I says, oh, would you like to give again? And he did. I thought I better not chance my luck. He's favourable enough now, I better not ask him again. But he was genuine, he actually really meant it. And because in the Bible also it says that it's better to give than to receive. Of course, in the Nectar of Instruction by Srila Rupa Goswami, giving and receiving gifts are two one of the exchanges between devotees, or two of the 6 exchanges. So it's not that we just give, we should also receive, sometimes out of humility, or sometimes out of false humility, that we don't want to accept service from anybody. Because we're trying to consider ourselves a servant, and that we should be giving service and not accepting it. But sometimes it's our duty to accept service also. So, like the spiritual master, he's accepting the service of his disciples, but not for himself. He's not sitting there thinking, great, I've achieved it. Now I've got lots of people running around after me. They're washing my feet. They're wiping my brow. They're filling my wallet full of cash. They give me nice garlands. And all I have to do is sit here and shout at them all day. All I have to do is instruct them and point out some faults in them and take their karma, even if they're not sincerely following. No, but that's not the position of a guru. The guru is actually the greatest servant, because he's taking on the reactions of his disciples to clear the path for them so that they can make progress in Krishna consciousness. And I must say, the first time I got initiated, I actually felt that the very next day when I was chanting my japa, I felt some upliftment. I felt like my path had been cleared and I was chanting much better. So that is, the connection is there. This is a recommendation of Krishna, that if we want to get his mercy, then we take shelter in his devotees. And that means learning how to serve. So when the spiritual master is accepting service, even sometimes reading Prabhupada's pastimes, that the disciples are serving Srila Prabhupada, but he's criticizing them, he's pointing faults out. And that's because he's training them. He's taking, like the guru is known as Vishnupad or Prabhupada, one who takes the position of Vishnu, or one who takes the position of Prabhu, the Lord. And he's basically there showing us, this is how you serve. Yes, very nice, that's good. No, that's wrong. Don't do it like that. Do it like this. And this way he's training the disciples so that at the end of this lifetime, then they can go back to the spiritual world and they know how to serve with the proper attitude. And it's not so much the semantics of what we're doing, like, okay, that person did 7 circles with a ghee lamp, they should, and this one only did 6, so that one's made a big fault there. There should be 7 circles, not 6. No, it's about the devotion. Of course, there are some rules and regulations and there are standards, etc., but it's about the offering of love and devotion. And on that, if somebody comes to the temple and they give a donation of 1 penny and they say, and it's a very nice shiny penny, and say, I give this with complete devotion, then we say, okay, what about the rest of your bank balance? Are you keeping that with complete devotion as well? So Krishna doesn't need anything from us. Just an example. Krishna doesn't need anything from us. Like, we may be quite keen to be the best cook ISKCON's ever seen, so we get a good pat in the back from everybody at prasadam time. Or, so we're looking for our ego to be boasted, or are we hoping to really please the devotees? In which case, if we make a mess, because every endeavour is covered by some fault, so even if our best endeavours, we try to please the devotees, and it doesn't turn out so good, so then if our endeavour or intention is to please, then someone says, oh, this could have been better, then you say, oh, great, thanks for telling me that. Now I can do better. So we shouldn't put ourselves into a position where nobody can tell us anything. That was a very unfortunate position. If nobody feels they can tell us anything, then nobody will. Now, ultimately, what happens? Then we will lack that part of the association. So, similar with these demons, most of the time trying to reason with them is a waste of time. As I say, if you try to give good advice to an angry person, then what happens? They become more angry, doesn't it? What do you mean? Who do you think you are to tell me? So you have to wait until they've calmed down, and then you try to be reasonable with them. So the demigods follow the instruction of the Supreme Lord, but they also have some good karma to burn out, and sometimes this is their fate. Their fate also, that they have got some pious rewards to enjoy, and then if they also remain devotional, then they can go back to Godhead after that. Otherwise, they come back down to the material, earthly plane again, where they get another opportunity. So, although this age of Kali, age of quarrel and hypocrisy, is considered that people are short-lived, unlucky, misguided, and above all, always disturbed. We're easily disturbed, isn't it? But still is considered, and although this age of Kali is considered such an impious age, by the characteristics of it, you can see there's a lot of negative things going on in the world. But it's also considered by some of the great saints to be the most auspicious age, because in this age, the method for self-realization is so simple, chanting Hare Krishna. That's all it is. Prabhupada said it's so simple you could miss it. There must be more to it. So therefore we do added austerities and we do this and we do that. But really it's about chanting Hare Krishna, but chanting attentively. That's why every day we say these verses, the 10 offenses against the holy name, because to really get the benefit of chanting the holy name, then we have to become acquainted with these 10 offenses, 10 things to avoid, and see how they're in our life, how we can avoid them. And this verse, Chunadapi Sinechana, that is encapsulating the mood by which we should chant in a humble state of mind, thinking ourselves lower than the straw on the street, always ready to offer respect to others and not expecting respect for ourselves. So this is the mood and the directions there. Apart from that, there's no hard and fast rules. You can chant on beads, you can chant off beads, we can sing, we can talk, but the main thing is chanting. Satatam kirtayantomam. Sat means eternal, Satatam, always chant my name, Krishna says. But it's interesting to see that even the demigods, because of their attachment to Vishnu, then the demons indirectly were glorifying the demigods. You always go crying to Vishnu whenever there's any trouble. Yeah, so this is a glorification. I remember one devotee said to another devotee, he said, "Oh, you're just a Prabhupada man." And the other devotee said, "Oh, I'll take that as a compliment." So the way he said it was as if it was just, just like a fanatical sycophant or something like that. So, of course, we're not a personality cult, but at the same time, when you're following great personalities, in one sense we are, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we're cultivating devotion to Krishna. And any of the bona fide representatives of Krishna are so attractive, just as Krishna is attractive, then we become attracted to Krishna's representatives as well. So if we become attached to Krishna's devotees, this is just as being attached to Krishna. This is mentioned in, I think it's the 3rd canto, that chanting the names of Krishna's devotees is as good as chanting the name of Krishna. So when we're chanting Guru Puja, Jai Prabhupada, then Krishna is very pleased with that, because we're glorifying his devotee. He doesn't require us to be, what was that saying? Love me, love my dog, right? You can't say, well, Well, I love Krishna, but I don't love his devotees. Therefore, I'll just become a hermit. Sometimes devotees, they find living in a community of devotees difficult to tolerate, especially if we have to share facilities. But this sharing facilities is an opportunity to learn tolerance, to learn to get to know people. If people don't want to take that opportunity, then how are we going to learn tolerance? This is one of the first things Krishna is telling us, isn't it? Tamstitik Shasvabharata, learn to tolerate. But if we put ourselves in a situation where we don't have anything to tolerate, then I don't think such a situation exists. All that happens is we become less tolerant and less tolerant because we become disturbed by the slightest thing. Still, at the same time, we have to do what is necessary for us to continue our devotional service and not put ourselves artificially in a situation which is too difficult to manage. Therefore, we have to be rightly situated. So the demons and demigods are situated in particular places because of their desires and because of their karma. So this is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita also, that one should become desireless. But by desireless, it doesn't mean to say one should be free from desire. One has no desire, because desire itself is part of the living entity's makeup. It's part of our constitution. We have desire. But how we align that desire, how we direct it, that will determine whether we are desiring something which is for our benefit or which is to our detriment. So this Krishna consciousness means that we align our desires with the desires of Krishna, and in this way we become desireless. Otherwise, we're continually trying to fulfill desires. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, that just as the oceans is ever being filled with the rivers and streams, then our mind is inundated with desires all the time. And we're so accustomed to it, we think it's normal. And we think we will find some peace by this fulfillment of desires. Just like in the previous verse, Hiranyakashipu is speaking, and he's talking about when he severs Lord Vishnu's head from his trunk by his trident, then I will please my brother, and thus I shall too be peaceful. So he's thinking that if he kills Vishnu, he'll be peaceful. Apart from the fact he cannot kill Vishnu, but then he's thinking that this is my enemy and I'll kill him, and then when I kill that enemy, then I will be peaceful. So just even in our own life, we may not actually physically kill somebody, but sometimes we want to be able to defeat them some way or get them out of our life because they're causing a disturbance. But the better way to be peaceful is to be peaceful amid any disturbances. Just understanding that these things will pass. People have their own, they have the right to their own opinions, they have the right to their own choices that they make in life, and it doesn't mean to say that we have anything to do with it. So this is, in Krishna conscience, Srila Prabhupada once says that sometimes a spiritual master or a devotee may get angry superficially, but this is considered to be like the waves on the ocean. The ocean is very deep, and on the surface sometimes it's peaceful, sometimes it's a little choppy or stormy, but not far below the surface, then it's calm. So the devotees like that, sometimes they're calm, sometimes they're not so calm because something may be affecting them, or they may be even using these things in Krishna service. But then the non-devotee, they may appear to be very peaceful because they're simply satisfying their senses all the time. Just like if someone has an addiction, as long as that addiction is being satisfied, then everything's okay, isn't it? But if that substance is not there, then there's great agitation. So the saying of still waters run deep. So sometimes it looks like a still pond, but underneath there's turbulent waters. Like in Scotland, you'll see Sometimes in lochs or in rivers, there'll be signs saying, danger, do not swim. And you think, oh, it looks so peaceful, but don't do it because people lose their lives. Just 2 years ago, there was one Muslim family who had been touring Scotland, and they stopped off at Loch Lomond, and 3 of them drowned all in one time. One went in to rescue the other, and they just went under. So, so it looked very peaceful, but they went in, and they lost their lives. So this can also be sometimes the materials to look very peaceful, but underneath there's some turbulence, and it doesn't take much for that turbulence to come out. So the practice of Krishna consciousness and applying the knowledge of Krishna consciousness is there to help us try to learn to tolerate, as Krishna says, to learn that. If we don't want to put ourselves, or if we don't find ourselves in that position, then, as I say, you must be a hermit, because every day there's opportunities to learn to tolerate, isn't there? And sometimes we have to tolerate ourselves more than anyone else. And a good one thing I always often try to remember is when I'm finding it difficult to tolerate someone, I think, well, you don't know how much they're tolerating you, and they probably have a more difficult job than you have. It's good. That's self-realization. That we're not the one that has to do the tolerating, the other one that has to do it. And when we think like that, then it's easier to tolerate other people. If we all think like that, then we can understand each other better, and then there can be some peace. Despite, even if there's some, externally there may be some upheaval going on. So I'll just stop there. Anyone get any comments or questions? Okay, Iskon Guruvinda Ki, Prabhupada Ki, Karantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Gaur Bhaktavrinda Ki.